Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Gray, and I'm the director of the PowerUp What Works Center. I'm coming to you today from Washington, D.C., and I'm pleased to be joined with my colleague Elise Brand, who's joining us today from the Boston area. We're going to be talking about the issue of differentiated instruction and UDL to personalize your professional development. And I think we're going to just hear Elise's voice now. Elise, do you want to say hello?
Sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
You're coming in loud and clear.
Great.
Thanks. So today we're going to have the opportunity to explore how UDL, Universal Design for Learning, can be used to enhance both teaching and learning. We're going to be talking about how our website, PowerUp What Works, provides you tools and information to integrate the principles of UDL throughout your teaching. Elise is going to give us a tour of PowerUp so that we can see our resources and tools and other materials. And we're going to learn how you can customize your own professional development to ensure that the principles of UDL are well understood by yourself and others who you're working with. We're going to open up our discussion today to get your questions and see how we can address them, and also to focus on next steps. What are the opportunities that might be available for us to work together? So just a quick update on PowerUp What Works. We are funded by the U.S. Department of Education, the Office of Special Education Programs, also known as OSEP. We're a free website. There's no login, there's no registration, and we like to say here that it's your tax dollars at work. These are resources that we've developed over the past 4.5 years, working with over 15 districts around the country and experts in the field of assistive and learning technologies, UDL, differentiated instruction, and English language arts and math. And as you'll see, ELA, English language arts and math, are our two content focus areas. So what are the goals of PowerUp? We have focused on developing materials and information to ensure that students with disabilities and their classmates are career and college ready by offering evidence-based practices that integrate technology and the UDL principles and what we know about how best to differentiate instruction. As you will see when we go through the website, that there are 3 key components. We focus on how to power up your classroom, how to power up your professional development activities, and also how to power up your school. Before we get to the tour, I thought I'd just take a minute to talk about this concept of universal design for learning. This is an educational approach that focuses on 3 key principles to enhance teaching and learning in the classroom. UDL focuses on multiple means of representation to give diverse learners options for gaining information and knowledge in the classroom and also outside of the classroom. A second primary principle focuses on this issue of multiple means of action and expression. This is focused on providing learners options for demonstrating what they know. And finally, multiple means of engagement, looking for ways to tap into learners' interests, offering them appropriate challenges, and increased motivation. So these are the 3 overarching principles. as Elise gets into the website, PowerUp, what you'll see is that these guiding issues really are integrated throughout the PowerUp site. Everywhere you go on the site, you'll see that we're providing teachers and school leaders and professional development coordinators ideas and ways that they can take evidence-based strategies to integrate these principles of UDL throughout their efforts. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to turn it over to Elise, who's going to take us on a tour of PowerUp so that you can see how this site offers you ways that you can integrate the principles of UDL in your classroom. Take it away, Elise.
Thanks, Tracy. So we'll just get the site up here, switch over from PowerPoints. Great. So as you can see, this is the homepage for PowerUp What Works. We talk about using PowerUp to, as Tracy talked about, use PowerUp to enhance learning for students with disabilities, to personalize learning with technology in UDL, and to enrich professional learning opportunities for teachers and school leaders. And so if we go down along the left navigation, we'll start here. You'll see that we have some information about our project that gives a little bit of the history that Tracy just talked about and the work that we've been doing over the last 4.5 years. We have a section called Get Started with PowerUp, and this is broken down to provide targeted suggestions and ideas for where to go for our different key audience areas. And those would be teachers, administrators, professional development facilitators, and teacher educators. And most of these recommendations come from our work over the last 4.5 years with field test sites and schools and teachers around the country, and sort of the greatest hits of things that people would like to know more about, questions they may have about differentiating instruction with technology, and turning those questions into a roadmap for how to access PowerUp and where to find the answers to these common questions when it comes to UDL and differentiating instruction with technology tools. So I want to start with PowerUp Your Classroom. This is our key section that's geared towards teachers as well as school leaders and teacher educators, but really about the practical strategies that teachers can use in the classroom to meet the needs of struggling students and students with disabilities. And so you'll see we cover, as Tracy mentioned, English language arts and math are our two key content areas. And within those two content areas, we break it down into multiple evidence-based strategies for teaching reading, for teaching writing skills, and for teaching math. And so within, let's start with ELA. And I'll just choose one at random here. Self-questioning. You can see we have 11 strategies in ELA, and those cover both writing and reading. And we have 8 strategies currently in mathematics. So each instructional strategy is broken down. It gives you a brief overview of what this strategy is and why it's important for struggling students and students with disabilities. There's always a brief introductory slideshow that talks about this strategy and its relationship to the UDL principles. And why it's a beneficial strategy for students with disabilities or students who may be struggling with reading or writing or mathematics. And then each section of the instructional strategy guide takes teachers through how to use the strategy, practical strategies for teaching in your classroom, how you might address student needs using technology tools, and throughout we weave in the UDL principles, where there are direct connections to any of the UDL guidelines. We cite those and show how you can take these UDL guidelines and what that might look like in a practical application in the classroom, particularly supported with technology tools. And you'll see along the right-hand side of the screen, each one of these strategies is also tied to the Common Core standards. And so we always show you which standards are addressed by the teaching of this particular strategy. And if we go down a little bit further on the page, for each one of these instructional strategy guides, we always provide supporting materials, and those are what we call lessons in action. There may be 2 to 3 for some, and we're developing more as we go, that provide an example lesson. So for this one, for self-questioning, we have written up a little case story that shows what this might look like. A 4th grade teacher teaching self-questioning with her students as a way to improve reading comprehension, and it takes you through a lesson from beginning to end and talks about what the teacher did before, during, and after reading, how they assess students in an ongoing way, how they use technology to support the students in their classroom that were struggling, and which Common Core standards were met by their lesson. And there's always a piece that also reflects on how things went and what could have been improved in the future. We also provide, because we like to address the UDL principles for the adults visiting our site, as well as talking about helping teachers do it, we also provide much of this information in video format. So there are multiple ways to engage with the information. We represent it in multiple ways. There are videos, there are slideshows, there's text, so that you can come at it from different angles. And depending on how much time you have, you may have 5 minutes in between lessons, and you can get a quick strategy, and you can watch a short 2-minute video and get a quick idea of what to do in your classroom. So if we go to back up to PowerUp Your Classroom, we'll just go quickly through some of the other sections. Because we recognize that not everybody is familiar with Universal Design for Learning, or some people may have heard of it but not be entirely sure how it works or how they would incorporate it into their teaching practice, we provide an overview section about UDL that's very similar to the introduction that Tracy just gave. We talk about what universal design means, where it comes from, and what the guidelines and principles are, and how they can relate to evidence-based practices and good teaching. And then we provide a series of resources for people to explore further and find out more. So the other key pieces of PowerUp Your Classroom are, and this is closely intertwined with the instructional strategy guides and the focus on differentiating instruction, is formative assessment. And it's a key piece of being able to differentiate instruction is to measure student learning and understanding in an ongoing way. And most teachers do this through a number of low-tech or no-tech options, things like exit tickets and thumbs up and thumbs down, to get a sense for, do students get it? Are they following along? Do they understand what has happened in the class? And we provide some suggestions for ways to use technology to conduct that ongoing formative assessment as part of your daily teaching practice, and being able to quickly get a sense for, how's the room doing? Maybe I need to switch it up. Maybe there's a new strategy that I need to try, or I need to be differentiating this particular lesson a bit better because half the room is not following along. And so for both ELA and math, we provide some quick ideas for using technology tools to make that process a little bit easier. We recognize that teachers do formative assessment every day, and that this technology tools can help make their job a little bit easier, make that process a little bit quicker. So that's the key sections in the PowerUp Classroom. We also recognize that there are technology tools or technology strategies that cross a wide variety of content areas. And so we provide a section with more tech ideas. Technology and UDL is woven throughout the entire site. We talk about it everywhere, and how it relates to classroom teaching or how it relates to professional development. But we also have a section on broad technology strategies that teachers can incorporate whatever content they're teaching in any area that can help support students who are struggling or help support students with disabilities. So you'll see there's a whole section here about various technology strategies. For example, using embedded supports within technology tools, so things like online dictionaries or being able to hear a word read aloud or quickly access a definition, All of those pieces can be used across content areas and can be ways to support students who may be struggling with academic vocabulary, for example. So the next section takes it just a little bit further, because we recognize that we can provide all of these resources, all of this information about UDL and differentiating instruction for teachers, but that for them to be successful, the school needs to have the kind of environment where they can try out new technology tools or have the chance to explore. So we've created a section about powering up your school. I'll just show that very quickly. There's 3 key sections of Power Up Your School: assessing readiness for using technology, the evidence-based recommendations for how best to integrate technology into the school and into the classroom, and there's a series of support modules that talk about the process of integrating technology, the process that schools need to go through to make sure that they've created a system and an organizational structure where teachers feel comfortable trying new technology tools or trying to plan their curriculum or plan their lessons or their units in a different way to address the UDL principles. And a key piece of that is powering up professional development. So the teachers are critical as being the ones to implement these strategies to try out the technology tools. The school and the school environment is critical in being able to support teachers in doing these things, but the key piece is in professional development and professional learning, and making sure that teachers have access to high-quality professional development around technology and evidence-based practices. And simply learning how to use a technology tool is not enough to make sure that teachers can use a technology in a way that supports learning and supports students who are struggling. And so our Power Up Professional Development section helps school leaders, PD administrators, PD facilitators, teacher educators put all the pieces together and make sure that teachers are getting professional development that talks about evidence-based practices, that talks about differentiating instruction and universal design for learning, and puts that all together with the available technology in the building to make sure that teachers have all the tools that they need to really address the needs of students with disabilities in their classrooms. And so that's a lot of talking, so I'll stop and make sure there's no questions or that, you know, everything's been going on a good pace.
Thanks so much, Elise. Alessandra, do you have any questions or issues that you'd like us to particularly address? You can join us again in the chat. And while you're talking, possibly putting in some of your questions, one of the things that Elise touched on when talking about UDL is this whole issue of scaffolding instruction as compared with differentiating instruction. Scaffolding often refers to giving students various ways of, again, representation and strategies to tackle particular issues. So it's dividing a lesson up into small, usable, digestible pieces, if you will, so that a student might be able to better grasp a particular learning topic, reading section in a book, or a math problem. So it's really breaking it down into smaller pieces. And what you'll find in looking at the PowerUp site is that we provide several different ways and strategies for teachers to actually scaffold their particular approach to English language arts or math. Differentiation and differentiating instruction is in fact looking at the individual child and determining what their particular needs are related to a particular task. So you can scaffold the lesson that you're doing and break it up into pieces and provide multiple means of representation. Whether you're doing it with highlighting different patterns or critical features or identifying ideas and relationships, and providing guides for both processing and visualizing and manipulating the information. And then in terms of differentiating that to meet the needs of the individual student learner, you might find that a particular student benefits from using a technology tool or a digital support to practice that particular area of focus, or to expand their knowledge because they've grasped the concept and they might want to drill down more deeply on that particular area. One of the things that we found with the UDL principles is ensuring that students continue to be engaged and motivated, and that the tasks that they're given to acquire particular knowledge or to expand their knowledge base really should be heightened with the use of and the selection of appropriate technology tools. Those technology tools not only can foster interest in a particular concept, idea, or particular unit of learning, but also they foster collaboration among and within groups of students. When you look at the research on the use of technology, while that research base is continuing to grow, what we do find in many instances is that technology does serve as a motivator and a way to engage students in learning. As we know, the students in our schools today are all digital natives. They feel comfortable with technology, as do many of our teachers. But while teachers feel comfortable with the technology, in many instances, they're still not comfortable with how to integrate it into their instruction. And that also goes for school leaders who are looking at ways to leverage their tax dollars and to ensure that those tax dollars really maximize the technology. So as Elise talked about, we have all of these tools related to technology implementation throughout the school. How can technology really power up what's going on across the different activities within a school, and how can we ensure that that technology really offers its best potential, whether it's using one-to-one strategies where all students have access to a laptop or some type of digital device, or whether we're talking about flipped classrooms where teachers are using their school time to focus on areas of particular interest or difficulties, but students have the opportunity when they go home to really focus on a particular lesson and to use that time at home to find out what their issues are and areas of concern, that they then can go back to the classroom and have that as part of what goes on in that classroom. All of these different strategies that deploy technology are explained in detail on the PowerUp site. And again, the purpose is to make sure that teachers and school leaders and professional development coordinators really get a grasp on how technology can enhance teaching and learning for all students, particularly those who are struggling and those with disabilities. So I'm going to stop here, and it looks like there is a question here or a comment. I'm just reading the question. What I've seen in schools is that teachers seem to be under pressure to use technology somehow, and they do. They play videos on YouTube, for example, and believe that they've incorporated technology to differentiate instruction. We have also seen that. The real challenge is going beyond just showing videos and having children or students do drill and kill with technology. But it's really figuring out ways that the technology enhances the instruction and reinforces the instruction, and also provides, back to those principles of UDL, really strategic ways to engage students by providing them with multiple ways to understand particular concepts. Using multimedia, for example, that's something that Elise talked about, where you can get students to think about a particular issue and represent it in different ways, not just writing about it, but maybe creating a video about it or writing a blog about a particular topic of interest, but really figuring out ways that they can take these tools and use them to not only be more engaged, but to enhance and to get a deeper understanding of these particular concepts. So I'm going to stop there. Go ahead, Elise.
Sure, I was just going to jump in because it's funny. It's like this question was channeling my next thought. Was that a real goal of PowerUp and focusing first on evidence-based practices and good teaching practice before moving into talking about how technology supports that practice, is that we want to help teachers use technology and schools use technology in a really intentional way. And the technology tool that you have in your hand may not always be the best solution or the right solution for that student or for that particular activity or for that particular time. And a perfect example is I was recently talking to an administrator who is implementing technology in his school, and he said, my son is at a school where they've all got iPads, and he hates it because they're using the iPads for everything. He doesn't have books anymore, he doesn't have notebooks, and he loves the iPad for certain things, but there are other times where he feels that he's using the iPad for things that are not maybe the best task for using an iPad. And that can be a real challenge when implementing technologies or playing a YouTube video, and that's a good first step to differentiate instruction or a good first step to integrate technology. But there are so many more ways that you can use technology to support students. And the YouTube video may be a great option for some students for a certain activity, but may not be such a great option for other students. Or they may not, students may need a step further beyond a YouTube video. They may need something a bit more interactive or with more built-in supports involved. So that's a great question, and a key focus of PowerUp is helping teachers and helping schools move beyond the tool and thinking about how the technology serves a purpose and how it can help support students who are struggling or support students who have disabilities.
That's really great, Elise, and I always marvel when I hear that example of the student who is really tiring of only using his iPad at school, and that's such a great example of how teachers and schools have really, in some instances, gone completely the other way, not recognizing one of the key UDL principles is this multiple representation of ideas and concepts and knowledge, and that students, and I think we all do, while we love the technology, we also like to hold the book in our hand. We also like to get content on our cell phone, but to only be able to get it delivered in one way doesn't really make a lot of sense. Sorry. So I'm going to stop there. One of the things that we didn't show you was our tech matrix. And while I get this frog out of my throat, I'm hoping that Elise can just do a quick review of the tech matrix, which is another one of our great tools that we offer on PowerUp.
Sure. So, you know, we developed the Tech Matrix now, more than 10 years ago. It's been an ongoing project, and we've continued to build it and develop it and update it through PowerUp What Works. And its genesis was, it really began as primarily a tool for assistive technology specialists to come and find assistive technology tools. And what we found through talking to parents and teachers and general ed teachers and special ed teachers is more and more interest in technology and wanting a source to be able to find tools that can support students who are struggling or support students with disabilities. So this the most recent version of the Tech Matrix is really focused on not just assistive technology at this point, but educational technology tools as well, because there's been a real transition in technology tools where most mainstream technology products have some forms of accessibility built in, and where you used to have to buy separate programs to provide text-to-speech capabilities, for example, that's built into many devices, many platforms at this point. So with the Tech Matrix, you can search for technology products in a variety of ways. If you start from the home page, you can search by content area, grade level, and IDEA disability category. And we've included just those three categories as a starting point because those are the most common ways that people search for technology tools. So you can also go into a deeper search. If you can just click the search from the top navigation there, Caroline. And this is really for people who want to be able to drill down even further and be able to not just address content area, grade level, disability category, but to also look at the specific features of technology tools, the cost range, what platform they run on, what Common Core standards they meet. So you can see all of those throughout here. And one of the great features of the Tech Matrix, apart from just being a database of technology tools, which a lot of people do, is we allow you to compare technology tools for learning side by side, similar to what you'll find on, you know, Home Depot, for example, has a product matrix where you can compare washers and dryers side by side as you make your decision. And so we have a similar type matrix where I can choose. I've done a search. I found, you know, 3 Android apps that teach math, and I'm not sure which one I want to choose, which one might be the best fit for my context and the students that I'm working with. And so I can compare those 3 products and check out features of each tool and say, well, you know what, this one actually has built-in Spanish language support, and now I have a lot of kids in my class who are second language, English as a second language learners. So I may want to choose that tool over this other tool. Or I'm looking for something that really has a lot of built-in vocabulary support, and I noticed that this tool has built-in dictionaries and glossaries, and I can add to it, you know, and edit the glossary and add new words if I want to, whereas this other tool does not have that feature. So we created this as a way to really help teachers make informed decisions about technology tools and help them make that transition that we were just talking about with moving beyond this is the hot new tool, or this is the thing, you know, I need to get an app for history, to, well, what do you need that app for? What are the student learning goals? Beyond, you know, just an app that teaches science, what do you need that app to do? What do your students need to do? What sort of supports might they need? And help teachers and school leaders think a little bit more deeply about the features inherent in these technology tools that can provide supports for students who are struggling. So that's a very quick rundown of the Tech Matrix. Tracy, have you recovered?
I have recovered. I've gotten that frog. That frog leaped away. And it looks like we've got a question here. Are these technology tools available on the internet, or are they inside the Tech Matrix? Oh, that's a great question. They are available Many of them are available on the internet. Some of them are tools that you actually have to go out and purchase. But some of them are, we've got apps that are identified on the Tech Matrix, but some of them, again, like the Braille Sense Plus. That's a note taker that uses a Braille keyboard. So that's a good example, or the Braille Note. Those are actually hardware, if you will. We've got several word processors that are showing up on the screen, but we also have links to tools that are available online. Elise, you want to clarify that further?
Yeah, I think you covered the bulk of it. We try to have a pretty good mix of hardware and software, and things that are specifically designed, as I said, for students with disabilities, such as the Braille note takers or the gumball switch or things like that are very specifically targeted to students with a specific type of disability. But we also weave in a lot of mainstream technology tools, particularly apps, many of them free or, you know, in the very low range, you know, less than $5. And what we do is we help highlight those popular mainstream apps, and we're continuing to add more. Actually, over the course of the summer, we're going through a big review right now of Android and iPad and iPhone apps to help teachers make those decisions about those mainstream technology tools that are not specifically designed for students with disabilities, but we can say, this app has these key features that may be beneficial for a student who has a learning disability, for example, or a student who has dysgraphia may benefit from one of the many note-taking tools out there that is maybe not specifically designed for somebody with dysgraphia, but because of its built-in features can really help support those students who have trouble with the physical act of writing.
That's great, Elise. I really am quite taken by that question. We've demonstrated the Tech Matrix so many times, and it's always wonderful to get a question that we haven't had before. So thank you so much for asking it. And it's also, it makes me realize that that's one of those things that we should probably emphasize when we present the Tech Matrix. So again, our thanks. And we're actually coming to the end of our session. So if there aren't any other questions, I think we'd just like to close by saying that we would be very happy to provide additional information to our participants. We offer webinars beyond the Ed Tech Month sponsored by Learning Revolution. We encourage you to look at our YouTube page and you'll find other archive materials. And again, please feel free to contact us. We'd be happy to offer a customized webinar for you or your team and figure out ways that we might be able to work together. So on behalf of Elise and myself, we wish you all the best and hope to see you again in cyberspace. Take good care. Thank you. Bye-bye.